"Daddy, when will you come back again?" says Acho's son. Shogun wakes up and is tossed out a window. Shogun finds out a new drug called Rainbow Kid is selling well in Japan. A man tells Shogun that a Japanese tourist overdosed on it and is about to kick the bucket. The man then mentions the Friendship Democratic Party, but Shogun is already gone. Shogun finds the overdose man, as he claims that Japan belongs to Friend. Plan. Another plan. Destruction of the Earth. Shogun then finds the friend symbol in his wallet. Shogun determines that this Japanese man was murdered and did not overdose. Shogun then goes to Chaipan's headquarters, looking for a girl named Mei. He fights his way out as he remembers his training with a monk. He eventually gets cornered, but is saved by Inshu as he asks for directions. "I want to be stronger," screams Acho in the past. Inshu hands Shogun a business card as he waits for his bus. Mei thanks Shogun for his assistance. Shogun remembers the monk's teaching about strength, which is to wait for something important. Shogun sees the girl off as he returns for another job. Mei then arrives with blood all over her body. Because they saw Inshu's face, they're an impediment and will be eliminated. The girl passes away as Shogun receives a call. "Is that you, Acho?" "It's me, Kenji." In 1969, Yambo and Mabo destroyed their base. Acho learns about love and peace from a hippie. Maruo then reveals that Yambo and Mabo pulled down his pants in front of everyone. Maruo and Yoshitune tell Acho about the incident, but he says it's all about love and peace. In the now, Kenji needs Acho to prevent Friend from destroying the world. Kenji begs for his help, but Acho hangs up the phone. In the past, Acho came to Kenji's aid in his fight with Yambo and Mabo. Acho carries the corpse of Mei and says that he has a few things he needs to take care of. "Open your eyes and see your fear," says the monk to Acho. In the now, Shogun returns Mei to her family. Shogun goes to Myanmar, Thailand, to look for a Rainbow Kid drug. He receives a tip to head towards Gango Pagoda. The trek is arduous, and he even gets drugged by an old lady. He makes his way inside the temple. There's a man that says, "The world will end." The man shows Shogun the god of destruction and the god of fear. He then shows him the symbol of Friend. The man then hands him some Rainbow Kid. He tells him about the virus that drained people of their blood in 1997. Despite never reading a newspaper in the last 10 years, Shogun knows all about the events that preceded. He then recalls how his son was killed by a motorist. He then tells the man he's immune to poisons, and his heart died the day his son passed away. It turns out that this is the man that lit Kenji's convenience store on fire. Shogun says he'll destroy the Rainbow Kid manufacturing plant. The two make their way inside, as Shogun stares up at a banner of the friend symbol. What a crazy plan that was. He then blows up the plant. The man wants to save the others, but the plant blows up shortly afterwards. Japan, summer of 2000. An officer wants to see Shogun's passport, but when a friend symbol falls out, he salutes him. Kenji then approaches Shogun. "Nice to see you again, Acho." Shogun notices a wanted sign for Kenji on the door. "This is the defender for justice who's gonna save the world from danger," says Kenji. He reminds Acho that humanity will be destroyed in December of 2000. Kenji then takes Acho to an abandoned subway platform. "This is our secret base." Kanna then introduces herself to Acho. Kenji managed to destroy Jiaonan Medical College, where they created the germ weapons. Acho claims that the giant robot has already been built, based on the pictures he saw. "I believe Friend will be quite pleased, Professor Shikishima," says Inshu as he looks at the robot. In 1997, Inshu and Shikishima talk about the construction of the robot. Though Shikishima is in disbelief that a 50-meter robot can be constructed, the room argues about it anyway. They continue arguing about specifics, as Inshu suggests that they ask Friend. Inshu then communicates Friend's wishes, saying he wants it to be powered by atomic energy. Shikishima thinks this is all ludicrous, but Inshu says if he doesn't do it, he will never see his daughter again. In the year 2000, Kenji finds Shikishima's daughter in a brothel. He asks if she is being held here as a prisoner. He then covers her mouth, and states Friend's goal was to go after her father to build the robot. "The world will end on December 2000. The underground Emperor Kenji and his demons will be released from the bottom of the earth. It sleeps now, waiting for the Great Awakening." Kenji tells Shogun that he's going to destroy the robot, no matter the risk. Acho decides to accompany him. We then find out that a man was pleased with Shikishima's daughter's performance. Friend will be pleased. In the past, the boys' baseball went into a cave. That might have been an old abandoned air raid shelter. Acho and Kenji went inside to retrieve their ball. However, it was tossed back to them. In the now, Acho says a mushroom cultivator tossed their ball back to them. The two enter a room where a giant thing used to be. Kenji activates a VCR as a mysterious person says, "Let's play. If you don't get everyone together again, you'll lose." A ball bounces towards the two as something gazes upon them. The time for play is about to begin. You'll have to get all 9 together. In the past, Yambo and Mabo beat up Kenji and Acho with their wrestling moves. As Kenji laid on the ground, he saw his friends coming to his rescue. "Let's take this symbol back." Maru tells his son to take care of his mother in Hakata. Yoshitune then hands in his resignation and tells his boss to leave Tokyo. Manchan and Fukube join the cause, with Kenji, Ocho, Maru, and Yoshitune. Yukichi then steps in, but they still need 2 more people. "Nice weather today." "Yes, such a refreshing day," says a pair of unknown individuals. The president and the vice president protect Nagatsuka from the scorn of the other businessmen. Nagatsuka thanks the two and says that his son has been bullied terribly. The two, who turn out to be Yanbo and Mabo, meet up with Yoshitune. The two state that they're good old friends and that the Kenji group is not alone. Yanbo and Mabo meet up with Inshu. The two give up the location of Kenji's secret base to Inshu. Kenji plays his guitar outside, with Kanna by his side. Kenji doesn't want Kanna near him anymore, since things are about to get dangerous in Tokyo. He then waves goodbye to Kanna and his mom. Yukichi will protect Kenji for Kanna's sake. Acho brought guns, and Kenji brought dynamite to the fight. God then comes in after having a bad dream. "They are coming!" The Book of Prophecy foretells that a gigantic atomic-powered robot laid everything to waste and spread more of the germs on December 31st, 2000. And then 9 brave warriors stood forth. How will they fight to keep the peace of the world? The National Defense Squad raids Kenji's hideout, but they weren't there when it happened. Kenji's crew then looks to identify Friend's location, but he doesn't show up at any of his events. Fukube bugged Inshu's office, but still there was no presence of Friend. With no progress, Kenji proposes that they give up. Kenji then remembers that the National Diet Building was in plans to blow up as Acho witnesses the event for himself. The signal was fired. It was the signal that the countdown to human extinction has begun. 31 Diet members were killed, and 91 were severely injured. The only party unaffected by the bombing was the Friendship Party. The Kenji faction is blamed for the incident. Meanwhile, Acho wants to abduct Inshu so they can discover the location of Friend. It is now December 31st, 2000. Kenji plays his guitar as Kanna comes to visit him. 2 boys who are listening to Kenji's music are then killed by the giant robot. "It started," says Kenji. The giant robots simultaneously attack major cities all around the world. A soldier is instantly killed amongst a crowd of panicked people. The Kenji faction prepares for their counter-resistance as Kenji instructs them not to die. Kenji hugs Kanna as Yoshitune asks what the friendship symbol means. Acho took the hand from the next symbol on a manga page, and because he had big eyes as a child, he simply combined the two to make the friendship symbol. The Kenji group then gets ready to protect the world from danger. The 21st Century, UNHQ, New York. Please give your warmest welcome to the men who have saved the human race. It is now 2014, and Kanna is moving into an apartment. Kanna hears gunshots outside of her job. She later decides to leave to visit a ramen shop that reminds her of the one that she ate at with her uncle. Kanna then gets caught in the middle of a standoff. She takes their guns and says that the streets do not belong to the mafia. She checks in on the ramen owner, finding out that she ate at his teacher's store. His teacher died 14 years ago on the bloody New Year's Eve. The 2 mafia bosses come in as Kanna orders them some ramen. She orders another bowl to go and takes it to a memorial that states, "Mankind shall praise thou, saviors of the earth, with the greatest gratitude for eternal time. Happy birthday, Uncle Kenji." Kanna then notices another ramen bowl that is empty on the ground. Investigators come across a dead body from the Chinese mafia. A priest comes by, revealing that he was also part of the mafia at one point. Police then raid a gang hideout, with Detective Chono taking one of the men. He then comes across the restaurant owner, but Kanna proceeds to hit him. "I hate you! I hate police!" says Kanna. The investigators then question her and take her hat away. We then find out that someone saw a purported police officer killing the Chinese mafia member. The police then question Kanna's caretaker, Yukichi. The officer asks what happened to Kanna on the bloody New Year's Eve, but Yukichi can't respond to that. Chono and another officer go to question the father about the incident, but he has no relevant information. Chono then runs into Kanna, but she angrily passes by him. It turns out that Chono is the grandson of Chosan, the legendary detective who died 1 week before his retirement. Chono returns Kanna's hat as she apologizes for hitting him. Kanna then redecorates her room to give it more of a 60s vibe, which were a time of rock. Yukichi scolds Kanna for her recent actions. neighbors. But Kanna says it's because she didn't let her play her Uncle Kenji's song. Kanna blares the radio as Yukichi apologizes to the neighbors. Yukichi then reads their manga and says it's superficial love. She'd rather see a story about men who save the world. The two eventually decide to do a love comedy, claiming they can't disobey a friend. Chono goes to the restaurant, asking Kanna if she's seen a woman called Brittany. The owner states that Brittany has a large tab, and she's not getting out of repaying it. Kanna is then taken to Brittany, who states that she saw who killed the mafia man, but she won't say who it was. They then take Brittany to the police station, as she quickly identifies who killed the mafia member. Chono stares at a picture of his grandpa, as he wonders if he'll ever be a great detective. Chono inspects a shotgun at the police station. Chono then determines that a police officer could not have been behind the murder, as the officer that Brittany identified rides by on his bicycle. Kanna tells Brittany to leave as she gives her some money. Brittany has to collect a shaver from her dad, who died in the bloody New Year's Eve. Kanna says she'll grab it for her as she runs into Chono. Kanna is told to run since Chono's superior is coming. She then tells Chono that the officer with the mole killed the Chinese mafia member. Elsewhere, the warden of a prison welcomes a new batch of prisoners with a minimum sentence of 80 years. They'll be stuck on this island indefinitely, forever staring at the lights of Tokyo. A prisoner warns Kakeda not to get sent to special isolation, because a monster lives down there. He claims that the monster's been here for 14 years, and he's eaten people. Kakeda draws a picture that the guards get a hold of, and henceforth send him to special isolation. They stomp on Kakeda's hand, but a prisoner points a shank at one of the officer's eyes. The officers lock up Kakeda and restrain the monster with thick chains. Kakeda tries to converse with the monster, but he merely makes weird noises. Kakeda mentions that he has a mangaka, and his collection of Osamu Tezuka books were burnt up in the Bloody New Year's Eve. Kakeda was sent to prison for writing about a defender of justice, who aimed to defeat a man bent on world domination. That defender of justice is actually the very man who was trying to destroy the world himself. The monster laughs and says he only has 2 weeks to live. If he doesn't want to die, he has to escape by helping the monster. Kakeda wants to escape, but then he smells blood. There's a monster down here. The monster instructs Kakeda to stay quiet. He got here through a hole in the wall. The monster tells Kakeda to grab a pencil from Yukiji Tunnel and draw on the wall. The monster, who is known as number 3, tried to escape over 300 times in the past 14 years. Everyone who has helped him in escaping has died. Kakeda was arrested with his fellow mangaka, and the only ones left are Kaneko and Yujiki. Yujiki fell in love with a girl who listened to her uncle's songs on a cassette tape at high volume. The girl's name? Kanna's Tunnel, says number 3. It's the name of our last hope. Kakeda wonders what he's talking about, but number 3 says, call me Shogun. Kanna then writes a letter to Acho asking for his help. Kaneko and Yujiki work on their manga while thinking of Kenji's song. The two see Kanna packing and tell an officer with a mole on his face to come over and search her apartment. Brittany tells Kanna that the Chinese mafia man said something before he died. Assassination of the Pope. Chono walks in as Brittany clarifies that the phrasing was assassination of friend. Yama is promoted to the chief of police. I don't trust the police, says Kanna. In the now, Chono asks Kanna to trust him, but she resists. Chono says he's got a powerful ally that they can trust. He's then seen with Yama. Chono tells him what the Chinese mafia member said before he died. Pope assassination. Friend. Yama sees Chono off, claiming that he's sticking his head where it doesn't belong, just like his grandfather. I want that boy purified, says Yama. Chono tells Kanna and the others that they don't have to worry anymore, but she doesn't believe him. Nevertheless, she leaves the two girls with Chono as she heads off to the restaurant. At the restaurant, she stares at a good luck charm that Chono gave her. Brittany dances with Chono as she collapses to the ground. It's a transmitter, says Kanna as she inspects the good luck charm. The officer with the mole then walks in and says, your service has ended, Detective Chono. Just then, Kanna whacks the officer from behind with a frying pan. Chono fires off a round, but the officer disappears. Kanna reveals that all of the charms have transmitters. You said you would protect her! Chono doubts himself as he remembers that Yama was the one that told him about this situation. Meanwhile, Shogun says, Kanna is our last hope, and I must save her. In the past, Kenji poisoned the principal's flower bed with weeds from his garden. The boys then wondered what would happen in the Great Escape movie. Acho, however, already saw the movie, but he pretended not to know the ending. In the now, Acho remembers the words of Kenji, only those who will believe, they'll survive. In prison, Tomura talks to the chief warden. Tomura then visits Shogun. Same as always, number 3? Number 3, replies Shogun. It's been 10 years. No, even more. The child of God may need to be terminated, says Tomura as he leaves. The prison guards return Kakura to his original cell as they find a picture that he drew. He offers to draw them some dirty pictures as they tacitly accept. Inmates trade food with Mr. Post for information. Kakura hands him a telecard, which allows him to ask 3 questions. It's about prisoner number 13. Says Kakura. Kakura runs into trouble in the prison yard and ends up in special isolation again. He tells Shogun that number 13 will be involved in the assassination of the Pope. In 2 weeks, Shogun says that they'll be on the outside world. Shogun and Kakura make their escape. The two climb through a shaft as Shogun engages the guards. The two then enter the tunnel that leads to Tokyo. Eventually though, they see that the tunnel is flooded, but Shogun pushes forward for Kenji's sake. Elsewhere, God says that Earth looks like a bowling ball from space. In the past, Acho and Kenji had a competition to see who could hold their breath the longest. Acho came up first, making Kenji the winner, but he didn't know how to swim. In the now, the water is freezing cold, and they've got 10 kilometers to get to Tokyo. Unfortunately, they hit a roadblock. Shogun decides to check the emergency path. After some time, Kakura dives after him. His pants get stuck as he remembers his time as a mangaka. Shogun pulls him out as the two notice the light shining through the tunnel. Shogun and Kakura see the outside, but patrol helicopters are lining the skies. This is all to capture Shogun, who's planning something major. Shogun and Kakura then swim their way onto a Thai poaching boat. 21st century Tokyo. It's a city of the future we dreamed of, Kenji. After reaching land, Shogun collapses in front of a huge landmark. Oh my god. In the past, Kenji's group talks about the World Expo. The boys talk about all the stuff they want to see. We knew that we would see the 21st century of our dreams. Donkey's family can't afford the trip to Osaka, so he asks to borrow Kenji's bike. Later on, Kenji tells Acho that he can't go since his dad set up an outing on the beach on the same day. Kenji, henceforth, sang the song of the expo on the beach. While going to the expo, Donkey's bike broke. In the now, Shogun notices that the pavilions are the same as they were back then. Shogun then notices the friend symbol, which utterly shocks him. In school, Kaizumi wants to do a book report on Hitler, but is rebuked by the teacher. She then says she wants to do one on the leader of the terrorist organization, the Kenji faction. The teacher remembers the bloody New Year's Eve, and how if Friend wasn't there, everything would have ended. Kaizumi finds the event very suspicious, and wants to do her book report on it. After class, Kaizumi finds out that Kanna went wild and broke a window when they talked about Kenji the terrorist. Kaizumi goes to the Friend Peace Memorial, finding an old man eating ramen. It turns out to be God, and he analogizes Kenji's situation with a 7-10 split, and how he threw a gutter ball. Shogun and Kakura see a dead man on the street, who was previously seen with a police officer. Now the cops are looking for a runaway girl that Shogun instinctively knows is Kanna. Koizumi asks about details about the Bloody's New Year's Eve, but God merely signs his name on a piece of paper. Several of the hobos ask for God's autograph, as Koizumi pulls him away. Apparently, God is a super rich billionaire who paid his way to go to space. But despite this, he enjoys the bum life. Police then disperse the bums as they find Shogun and Kakura. The mole-faced police officer shoots a man that looks like Shogun. Shogun will now join the Thai mafia. God and Shogun then decide to tell the other two about the bloody New Year's Eve. Let's get moving. Gotta protect the world from danger. The robot rampages through the streets, with dead bodies everywhere. Unfortunately, Kenji's faction is taking the brunt of the blame. Kenji determines that the robot is being controlled via a remote. Acho decides to ride to the Friendship Party HQ. Turns out all the boys had a crush on Yukaji, but they suspected she liked Kenji. Manchun then reveals that he's not in the best of health. Acho tells Yukaji that her and Kanna are the last hope, and to go home. But Yukaji is in no mood to take orders. Kakura is shocked that Shogun's story contradicts all the textbooks. Back in 2000, Acho's group finds a bunch of Friend supporters laughing at the devastation. Acho sees someone suspicious on the monitors and tells Kenji about it. Kenji runs into the building and sees Fukube pointing his gun at someone. Kenji! It's him! He's controlling the robot! Kenji tells Fukube that he's Kanna's father. Fukube's wife was dragged into a cult, and he deduces that Friend is Sadakio. Kenji thought he died in middle school. I was your friend! Your only friend! Says Fukube. But because Sadakio was bullied, Fukube left him. Fukube climbs the fence, as he states he wanted to be a member of the Kenji group. Fukube attempts to wrestle the controller from Friend as the mask falls off. It's not Sadakio! Kenji remembers a conversation with Fukube, in which he thanked him for joining their group of friends. Fukube fell Well, says Kenji over the radio. With the remote control destroyed, Acho wonders why the robot is still moving. Acho tells the others to tell him what's happening, but they mock him. Maruro shows up as he sees the dead body of Fukabe and the masked man. The two then drive a truck with dynamite towards the robot. In the now, God says that all they could hear over the radio in Kenji's truck was 20th Century Boys. Kenji plays rock and roll on the loudspeakers at school. For 3.5 minutes, Kenji was invincible. Unfortunately for Kenji, nothing happened as no one noticed. Kenji forgot all about that event, but it's thanks to Fukabe's tape that he remembered. The Prime Minister finds out that 5,000 people have died from the devastation. A helicopter reports that the robot is radioactive. Rest at ease, Mr. Prime Minister. I have arrived just in time. Acho finds 3 radioactive suits. Kenji, Acho, and Maru drive the truck between the monster's legs. What the hell? In the now, Shogun tells Kakada that the robot looked crude and cheap. Instead of legs, it used caterpillar treads to move forward. And the body was simply a large balloon. This wasn't the future we dreamed of, says Kenji. Kenji and Acho then move their way up. Elsewhere, Inshu says they've created a vaccine for the deadly virus that is spreading. The Prime Minister orders for the emergency use of the vaccine. Inshu then states, Friend is going to risk his own life to save the world. Kenji grabs the dynamite from Acho as the latter falls off the robot. In 1969, Kenji shows his friends the finished drawing of the robot. Damn, stupid! This is not the robot I made up! Acho tells Kenji the robot may be radioactive. Kenji then reaches the cockpit. Unfortunately for Kenji, the driver is a mannequin. Kenji tells everyone to get away from the robot, as he's rigged it to explode. Kenji-kun, let's play some more! Friend's robot then arrives in front of the robot that Kenji's in. I am right here. Kenji demands that he take off his mask. Friend does so as Kenji says, You. The 21st century. Kanna says a giant explosion destroyed the whole area where the Friend Shrine now exists. Kanna plays a song that was recorded by her uncle. Thank you very much. His singing is pretty bad, says Chono. The UN gives a standing ovation to the Friendship Party for their effort in creating a vaccine and saving the world from a terrorist organization. Inshu says the real thanks belongs to Friend, who is now in the hospital for risking his life. Let us join hands and walk together, my loving friends. God explains that everything written in the textbooks are lies contrived by the Friendship Party. God is now looking for Kanna, Kenji's niece. At school, Koizumi is chosen for mandatory training because of her interest in the events of the Bloody New Year's Eve. She is then picked up by a bus so that she can learn more about Friend. At Tomodachi Land, Koizumi plays a simulator where a creepy version of Kenji attacks her. Tomodachi Land houses rides and shows that brainwash people into thinking that the Kenji's faction was pure evil. In the bathhouse, Koizumi is terrified by a man who presses his face up against the glass. While listening to music, a staff member takes away her headphones and says that no objects from the outside world are allowed. Koizumi looks for a hidden camera as she finds the words, "Help me," scribbled on the wall. The phones don't reach the outside world, so Koizumi decides that she's gonna run. While Koizumi escapes, she watches another girl get caught and receives some sort of injection that knocks her out. Koizumi runs into the peeping Tom and demands the photo back that he took of her. He leads her to the outside world as a couple of others call him Captain. Koizumi steps into the car with the man as she finds out that he's Yoshitune. Yoshitune takes her to the secret base. He hands her a security card that allows her to enter and exit Tomodachi Land at will. Yoshitune takes her to the basement, where pictures of the Kenji faction reside. Turns out Yoshitune ran off during the Bloody New Year's Eve, due to the fact that he was really scared. Yoshitune informs her that the Friendship Party will chase her to the ends of the earth, so she'll have to improve her rank to number 3 or higher to avoid going to Tomodachi World. It turns out that Yoshitune helped out someone else like this before, and upon leaving, he left a good luck charm and scribbled, "Help me," countless times in the room. Yoshitune then found a piece of paper in the trash can that said, "I met Friend," and played with him. We then see Koizumi going through the multiple tests in attempt to attain a number 3 ranking. She then goes into the virtual reality game, where she shoots the members of the Kenji's faction. After successfully beating the game, she's congratulated for her stellar results. Afterwards, Koizumi informs Yoshitune that she attained her goal of 3rd place. Now it turns out that when Yoshitune cleaned up the room for the bonus stage, there were pools of thick red blood. "Come back safely in one piece," says Yoshitune. Koizumi is put into a virtual reality where she sees Sadakio. Where am I? She then finds out it's August 28th, 1971. She then finds the Kenji faction when they were mere boys. After Koizumi talks to the boys for a bit, Tameko's brother asks the group if they can retrieve a baseball for him. Acho distracts the dogs with some meat as Kenji goes in to grab the ball. Koizumi helps them escape as the owner attempts to catch them. Koizumi decides to sleep in the field for the night as Kenji comes up to her and says they're going on a test of courage at the house on the Hanging Hill. In the now, Yoshitune has dinner with his subordinates. They're worried about Koizumi, but Yoshitune says that it's necessary in finding Friend's true identity. They then notice a secret message within the paper, the Hanging Hill. Yoshitune tells them a story of a man and his foster daughter disappearing on the Hanging Hill. Koizumi introduces herself to the boys as they get ready to go to the Hanging Hill, but none of them seem to care. They enter the mansion as they're scared to see an anatomy poster. The boys and Koizumi look up the stairs as they see a good luck charm. Oh, that's what it meant. A Teru Teru Bozu. In 1971, the boys started laughing. While the other boys are leaving, Kenji and Acho decide they'll do some more investigating. In the now, Yoshitune runs out of the house. We're going to Tomodachi Land. Go get the van started. Yoshitune plans on shutting down the power to the virtual attraction building. And they need to hurry because Koizumi's life is in danger. Koizumi then hears the voices inside the mansion. Now in 1971, Yoshitune returned to the house to see two pairs of legs coming from the sheet, just as Koizumi is witnessing now. And one of the boys says, "If you tell anyone about this, I'll kill you." Koizumi begins to peek behind the sheet as Yoshitune says, "If you look at Friend's face, he'll kill you."